Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everyone out there had a fantastic weekend. It was a weekend loaded with great football. I mean, Saturday we had instant classics in Knoxville, in South Bend. Yesterday, great games in Dallas, in Indianapolis. Tons of great football this weekend. Sadly, it did not involve the Tennessee Titans. Parker, I know tough weekend for you on Saturday and Sunday, really. But overall, lots of great football over the last couple days.
No, if you're a football fan, it was a great weekend for you. I stayed up. I watched football all the way up until I believe 1:30 or so on Saturday, or I guess Sunday morning at that, and then watched football all day yesterday, including going to the Titans game. Now, my teams did not win, but it was a great weekend for football.
Yeah, it's rare when you go into a weekend and say, there's some really great games. It's rare that they all live up to the hype, and it felt like they did this weekend. We'll get into Tennessee and Georgia a little bit more later in the show, but that was an instant classic, back and forth game, down to the wire, goes to overtime. Georgia pulls it off with a 44-41 win. Then Notre Dame, Texas A&M at night. Couldn't handle the snap on the PAT for the Fighting Irish, and then Marcel Reed leads the Aggies down the field, scores on 4th down and goal to win that game for Texas A&M. Unbelievable football on Saturday. Yesterday, Cowboys and Giants, for the first time in like 12 years, that game was played in the 1 p.m. slot, and it was the best game we've gotten between them. That one went to overtime too. Cowboys get the win. And then, of course, the Colts lost the game, but then the refs said there was leverage on the field goal attempt. And there you go. The Broncos fall to 1-1. Colts going to come to Nissan Stadium 2-0. We've got plenty to get to on the show today. We are going to talk Vandy later this hour as the Commodores went in and made a statement in Columbia. The Commodores now ranked in the top 20 in the nation, coming back home to face Georgia State this week, Utah State next week before heading to Alabama. We'll get into everything that Vanderbilt did on Saturday night in a 31-7 win. Again, we'll talk Vols and everything else that went on around college football. But we will lead off with the Titans, who fell 33-19 yesterday to the Rams. And Parker, we expected this. This is 2 weeks in a row where you head into the game expecting the Titans to lose. And I know some people out there may hate that because you don't want to expect the team to lose, but they were the less talented team. And yesterday they were out-talented. And I don't have a ton of a problem with the way the Titans played yesterday. They didn't play well, but they lost because they were the less talented team. And that's going to happen this year with the way this roster is constructed.
I think the biggest issue for me was we both talked about the Rams on paper, most talented team. We expected the Rams to win, which they did. I think the problematic thing was the Titans had the lead going into halftime, 13-10, but then they got outscored by the Rams 26-6 in the second half. So that was the biggest thing, because the offense that was there in the first half was not there in the second half, and the defense was very porous. So that's probably the most difficult thing that I have a tough time wrapping my mind around.
Yeah, and they didn't play well. The Titans did not play well, especially in the second half. They couldn't slow down Puka Nacua. They couldn't slow down Devontae Adams. They blitzed repeatedly and just could not get home. I believe the only time they got home was when Amani Hooker kind of half tripped up Matthew Stafford. And if he hadn't lost his balance, he still would have stayed up. And they just could not affect Matthew Stafford enough in that game. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams each had over 100 yards and ended up leading the Rams to that 14-point win. The Titans, I'm trying to look at the way Brian Callahan coached that game. And I know last week, Callahan was the big story. He made some really bad decisions. There weren't really a ton of opportunities for him to have a noticeable impact on that game. Like, the only scenario I look at with Brian Callahan was the end of the first half sequence after the Cody Barton interception, where he learned his lesson, maybe a little bit too well from last week, and decided to be conservative, just ran the ball, stayed in field goal range, ended up giving the Titans the lead. I had no problem with that. Do I think they could have been a touch more aggressive? Yeah. Like, I think you could have given Cam Ward one shot to try and get the ball deeper down the field with 2 timeouts. Like, I think there was an opportunity, and J.J. Watt was talking about that a lot in those final couple of seconds of like, why are they not pushing the ball? Well, if you watch the game last week, I think Brian Callahan maybe had a little bit of PTSD of, hey, I got obliterated for being too aggressive and costing the team points. He didn't want to do that again. That's the only scenario yesterday where you really could look and say Brian Callahan had a noticeable impact on this game as a decision maker. Obviously, his play calling, for sure. But the sins were still bad. And that's where it's starting to become a massive red flag that he spent the whole offseason and through training camp and the preseason saying we cannot shoot ourselves in the foot with pre-snap penalties and bad penalties that gives these teams first downs, and they've done it 2 weeks in a row. You cannot keep doing that. Too many self-inflicted wounds, and the penalties, 1 week is just 1 week sometimes, and that's fine. I was willing to give them a chance to say, all right, well, there were just maybe some fluky penalties here and there that ended up leading to that big 130 number in week 1. But it was bad again yesterday. This cannot keep happening. Brian Callahan obviously has to be better with play calling and decision making and all of this. But the most important thing that he emphasized this offseason was penalties, and they were horrible again yesterday.
10 penalties for 62 yards. There wasn't a noticeable, instance yesterday in yesterday's game where Brian Callahan had a really noticeable screw up. I think the biggest problem I have is he's too conservative when he should be aggressive, and then when he needs to be aggressive or when he doesn't need to be aggressive, that's when he is aggressive. So it's kind of backwards, but the penalties are egregious and they keep occurring. So to me, that's just a lack of discipline, and that's a direct reflection of the coaching staff.
Yeah, and it does bother me that they started the game with those pre-snap penalties. Like Zeitler got I guess this one wasn't pre-snap, the illegal man downfield that took a first down off the board in the first drive, and then you get the false start, then you take a sack. It's like, man, you just got to get out of your own way sometimes, and the Titans haven't been able to do that. The other penalty that stands out is the one that took the punt return off the board. Would have been the Titans' first punt return touchdown since 2012. Since 2012. 13 years ago was the Titans' last punt return touchdown, and it was the right call. Like, the rule is on a crackback block, an illegal blindside block, because he didn't hit him that hard, but you cannot block going back towards your own goal line. Like, that is the letter of the law. You cannot block going back towards your own goal line. Cedric Gray did it, and it cost them a touchdown. Actually, they ended up scoring the Cam Ward touchdown on that drive. So, it ended up working out for the Titans.
Titans got 7.
And you got that highlight play. But those penalties are tough to swallow too, because in the moment, it felt like you did take 7 points off the board. So the penalties have to be better. And I think you're right, Parker. There is a lack of feel from Brian Callahan on game situations of like when he needs to call certain plays. It's been over a year. At this point, the first-time play caller, first-time head coach excuse doesn't really ring true. Like, you've got to start to have some feel with your game management, the way they flow as an offense. And right now, through 2 weeks, it just feels like there's too many head-scratching decisions, especially in those late first half, late game scenarios. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey has called in. Trey, good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Hey, I just wanted to say that this is just my opinion, my honest opinion. I don't want to hear Cam Ward speak. Basically, he says the same thing every week. We're behind the chains. Why are you behind the chains? Because you're giving the ball to Tony Pollard and he's running for 3 or 4 yards. And then when we get down in the red zone, there's a possibility, 50-50 chance, that he's going to fumble the ball. He's been doing it for 2 years. Stop. It's ridiculous. And coach don't know how to coach, and the quarterback don't know how to play the game. This is ridiculous. There's no glimmer of hope here. The only glimmer of hope here is Kevin Ridley. Who else is there to help us? This is ridiculous. We need to win some football games, and it starts with the coach. And the way he's coaching is pathetic. This team is pathetic. And all the fans know it. Nobody's coming to the games because this team is pathetic. And I love y'all. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Trey.
Wow.
I
love it.
There's some in there that is 100% true. It starts with the coaching, first of all. You're now 3-16 as a head coach if you're Brian Callahan. And I'll actually bring this up now because we're going to get into Cam Ward the next segment. There was a tweet yesterday, and actually came from Titans Reddit, which I'm not on Titans Reddit, but somebody tweeted this out.
I've never even read anything on Titans Reddit.
First 19 games, I know the comparison is Callahan to Wisenhunt, right? Like that's where people are starting to go is who's been the worst coach for the Titans, Callahan or Wisenhunt. First 19 games, both were 3-16. Callahan has turned it over 38 times to Wisenhunt's 32. Wisenhunt scored 1 more point, and Callahan has allowed 2 less points. They have basically been the exact same coach through the first 16 or through the first 19 games. So take that with what you will. But, there are some things from Trey in there that were right. There were definitely some things that were wrong. Tony Pollard is not who you should blame for yesterday's game. Tony Pollard went 10 or 20 carries for 92 yards yesterday. He was actually pretty good. And Calvin Ridley, Calvin Ridley had 3 catches for 57 yards yesterday. And the catch on third down where Emmanuel Forbes punched it out, like, I don't call that a drop. That was a good defensive play. Like, they punched the ball. It's going to be tough to hold on to that, but you can't say Calvin Ridley is the only bright spot on this team. If anything, it's Alec Iamaner.
Yeah,
like
he's the one that made
Alec
the superstar
Iamaner
catch.
made a couple of great catches yesterday. So, Trey, thanks for the call. Some stuff 100% true. Brian Callahan has not been good enough. Fans aren't showing up to the games, but to blame Tony Pollard and excuse Calvin Ridley yesterday, I'm not sure that's exactly how the game went. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts on the Titans 33-19 loss yesterday, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get back to your phones when we come back. Also, some thoughts on Cam Ward. It was an up and down day for Cam Ward. The highs were very high, but there were some lows, especially late in the game as well. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game.
Despite the outcome, Cam, do you feel like Callie said earlier, you thought you made some strides. Did you yourself feel like you made some strides from 1 week to another?
I think I did, especially in just getting in and out of the huddle, the speed of the game. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm trying to win. And so that's what, our goal is here to do, is to win. And, we got to turn around fast. We just got to continue to work, come in next week with the right mindset like we have every week, and, just continue to try to get better.
That was Cam Ward after the game yesterday, talking about his growth from week 1 to week 2. He wasn't perfect yesterday, but there was definitely some flashes. The big one, the touchdown pass to Alec Iamaner, the first of his NFL career. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1:025 the game. I thought Cam Ward was good again yesterday. Was he perfect? No. And the play that really flipped this game from being competitive to being over was the strip sack, and Cam Ward has to be better at not holding the ball as loosely. He also missed the throw to Chim down the sideline. He was a little late recognizing that he was open there. And the play to Gunnar Helm, where he was flailing and almost hit the ground before he threw it. Please, Cam, never do that again. We saw it enough with Will Levis last year. This time it worked out, but that's one of those plays where you tell Cam, hey, glad it worked out. Don't ever do that again. Honestly, you could say the same thing about his touchdown throw. There might be a little bit of great throw, Cam. Please never do that again on the sideline, because he was running, I believe the stats came out that he was running about 15 miles per hour to his right and towards the line of scrimmage, throws it back across his body, 40-something yards in the air. And it was a perfect throw. That is why you take him number 1 overall, because he can do that. Doesn't mean he should do that all the time. I'd like to see some more conventional touchdown passes from Cam Ward moving forward, but that was absolutely spectacular from Cam Ward for his first career touchdown pass late in the first half.
Yeah, I tweeted after the little flip to Gunnar Helm that it was very Will Levis-esque of him. The only difference was Cam Ward actually completed the pass and not to the other team.
Right.
So it was completed to the right team, so that's good, but you get nervous. And on that touchdown pass to Iamaner, everybody in the press box kind of held their breath, got real nervous, and then once they completed, everyone we let out a sigh of relief. That's the Cam Ward experience in a nutshell right there.
I mean, that is one of the more impressive throws that I have ever seen. And I don't think that's hyperbole. That is what you teach quarterbacks not to do, because most quarterbacks don't have the arm strength to make that throw running to your right, throwing across your body, not just back to the middle of the field. He basically threw that to the back pylon on the other side. And it was a perfect throw. And Alec Iamaner did a great job of adjusting and making a play, but that is the arm talent that made you take Cam Ward number 1 overall. That is what everybody saw that said that is why in a quote unquote bad quarterback class, this is the guy you take number 1 overall. Again, I'd like to see some more, just within the structure of the offense, touchdown passes from Cam Ward, but that was so impressive from Cam. In a play that looked completely dead, he had 3 defenders bearing down on him that he was able to make that throw. It wasn't a perfect game yesterday, but again, this season isn't about him being perfect. It's about showing that he can be a franchise quarterback, and that's the type of play that makes you think that, hey, if we can get everything else around him better and he can make more plays within the structure of the offense, but if we need that play in a playoff game 3 years down the line, he can make that play, and that's what you need out of a quarterback. He doesn't need to do it all the time, but if he can do it, that can be the difference between winning and losing. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland is called in. Adam, good morning. What you got for us?
Jake, what are you talking about this morning, dude? I want to see more conventional touchdown passes. Cam does too, dude.
I understand it's not his fault, but I'm saying I'd like to see Cam Ward not have to make those plays all the time.
So would he. Even throwing that play that was going to the ground, that would have been sack number 6. What do you expect from this guy, man? Fire the coach, fire his daddy. That's where I'm going to be. Every one of my messages and conversations is going to be fire the coach and fire his daddy, because it all leads back to that, dude. You're setting records over here with how bad it looked. So don't put that on Cam, dude. Of course he would love to read his progression.
Adam, I wasn't criticizing him.
because you're saying, don't ever do that again. Well, what's he supposed to do? That was one touchdown he's had in 2 weeks. Like, dude, I'm telling you, I get what you're saying, but it all leads back to the coach and his daddy, dude. He can't even read the first read, much less go through 2 reads and find somebody or stand in the pocket for 2 seconds. He's going to get hurt, dude. Look at Joe Burrow. He just got hurt. Him and Taylor came from the same thing. And even when Callahan was over there, he couldn't protect Burrow. So if y'all want to see what it's going to look like, look at what Cincinnati's dealing with right now. So I think quicker the better. If I learn that they fire that coach today, I will feel so much better about the rest of our season.
Thanks for the call, Adam. I was not criticizing Cam Ward. I'm not trying to say that it was his fault that he had to make that play. Like, obviously, the offensive line is not good enough. The play calling is not good enough. The wide receivers aren't good enough. So in order to score a touchdown, he kind of has to be spectacular. But I'd like to see things develop around him so he can just be a regular quarterback and not have to throw the ball 40 yards across his body in order to get into the end zone. That's all. I mean, I understand that it's not Cam's fault that he was flushed out of the pocket 2 seconds after he snapped the ball. They're not going to fire Callahan today. Like, I don't think that's not breaking any news. Callahan's got at least another month at the very minimum.
If things continue at this rate, though, with all the penalties and just undisciplined and just getting blown out in the second half like this, it's going to be sooner rather than later.
No, I agree. He definitely didn't do anything to help himself yesterday. Like, we started the show talking about how there wasn't a disaster from Brian Callahan, but at this point, he needs more than just being average. Like, he's got to find a way to prove that he can be a good head coach, because he's dug himself a massive hole with the performance yesterday.
And I was thinking about this yesterday. What's been the signature moment of the Callahan era? Drafting Cam Ward?
I mean, the win against the Texans last year is probably the only one that gave you any kind of hope for Brian Callahan. Because, like, the Dolphins won on Monday night. You were facing Tyler Huntley. I don't know how. I feel like any team could have probably beaten the Dolphins that night. And the Patriots game, you had to go to overtime with a horrible Patriots team that you gave up a ridiculous touchdown as time expired to go to overtime. Possibly could have lost that game. So those two really didn't give you a whole lot of confidence that this team was trending in the right direction. The Texans game was probably the only one that you thought, oh, okay, maybe they're starting to figure it out. And then now they've lost 8 straight since then. So I would guess that would kind of be the signature moment if there is one, but it hasn't been good overall. Titans lose 33-19 yesterday. I really don't know what to say. Like, the Titans aren't going to be good this year. Yesterday, they got out talented, and Cam Ward showed that even when the talent isn't on his team's side, he can still make plays, and that is good. We've said it before that this season is not about wins and losses, and I understand that sucks as a Titans fan. Like, you want to win games, but this season is about finding out if Cam Ward is your franchise quarterback and finding out if Brian Callahan can be your head coach moving forward. So far, the early returns, Cam Ward looks like a franchise quarterback. Brian Callahan doesn't look like a franchise head coach. And if you can get answers to both of those things, you feel better heading into 2026. It sucks. You want to win football games. You have to win football games at some point. But right now, it's more about seeing the potential from Cam Ward and seeing that you can build around him moving forward.
I was listening to the Liam Cohen press conference yesterday a little bit after the Jags and the Bengals. The Jags went for it on 4th down, I believe, in the 4th quarter. And Liam Cohen was asked about, hey, why'd you go for it on 4th down? Because they didn't convert, and the Bengals ultimately ended up winning the game on a game-winning drive. And he said the analytics say 100% of the time to go for it, and that's pretty much all he said. But I feel like, and I'm not, Callahan didn't say anything about analytics yesterday, but what I'm trying to say is I feel like coaches kind of hide behind this analytical wall, but there's a feel that you have to have for the game. And Callahan has not shown so far that he has that type of feel. And that concerns me.
Yeah, I think Brian Callahan, he has to do, like, he can't just be average. Like I said, like he cannot just status quo and keep his job. He has to be better. And that's on the large scale of penalties and discipline for his team, and on the small scale of better as a play caller and better as a game manager decision maker, we haven't seen enough good from Brian Callahan. We'll see what he can do this week. I mean, the Titans have not won back-to-back games since November of 2022. Like that's ridiculous. It's been almost 3 years since the Titans won back-to-back games. That if the Titans cannot string together some wins this year, Brian Callahan is gone. Like you can't go 3-14 again. I think it's got to start this week. You played two really tough opponents, and I know the Broncos didn't look great against the Colts yesterday, but that defense is really good. And Brian Callahan is a large reason why they lost that game. You played a really good team with the Rams yesterday. Those weren't games you were expected to win. You're getting into a stretch of games where you should be more competitive. I know the Colts are 2-0. I still don't think the Colts are a playoff team. You have a chance to win on Sunday. The Texans, you beat them in Houston last year. You should be better this year. Can you compete with them on the road in a couple weeks? Then you've got the Raiders and the Cardinals back to back, or flip that, Cardinals and then Raiders. Like, those are games where you should get a couple of wins. Callahan's got to do that. If you're 1-5 or 0-6 heading into that Patriots game, time's going to run out on Brian Callahan.
I don't want to imagine a world where the Titans are 0-6 and then get blasted by the Patriots at home.
I mean, there's just as much as we joke about it, about Amy firing him after losing to Vrabel, if you're 0-7 after that game, it's over. There's just no coming back.
I mean, John Robinson got fired 2 days after the Eagles game when they were still first in the division. What do you think is going to happen to Callahan, who they considered firing last year but decided to hold on to him? If he's 0-7 and gets blown out by Mike Vrabel at home, it's off with his head.
Yeah, I mean, we're making hypotheticals here of what might happen. They've got to win some games in the next month, or it's over. It might already be past the point of no return. I think there's still a chance if he can. There's got to be some sort of quick turnaround here, and I think it starts on Sunday against the Colts. That for Brian Callahan's job, that kind of feels like a must-win. You're at home against a divisional opponent who, I get it, they're 2-0, but I don't think the Colts are world beaters. The talent on that Colts roster is not as good as what you've seen the first 2 weeks. You got to go out there and win. And we'll see what happens on Sunday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have thoughts. We will get back to the Titans, but there was a team locally that actually did get a big win this weekend. We need to get into that. We need to give Vandy their flowers. A 31-7 win over South Carolina. They are ranked this week. The Commodores are 3-0. We'll talk Vandy on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Mondays were made for Macero. Big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action. From queso to kickoffs, this is how Macero does game night. Macero football on Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap. And a Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight. We got 2 games. Bucks Texans at 6, Raiders Chargers at 9. So get out there to Macero. Plenty of football to watch and enjoy out there in 12 South. Jake Lemon, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. We will get back into the Titans. Titans fall 33-19 to the Rams, now 0-2 on the year. But I had to give some flowers to Vandy early in the show. And late in our show on Friday, Parker and I did our Monday headlines, trying to guess what would be the story on Monday. And first off, I want to give Parker credit. He projected that Georgia Tech would beat Clemson. They did. Clemson now 1-2. And Georgia Tech in the driver's seat in the ACC.
The Ramblin' Wreck, baby. I was so confident that they would do this because this Clemson team has been – that LSU win in Clemson looks more unimpressive by the week.
Right.
After Clemson, the way they struggled versus Troy in week 2 and then struggling versus Georgia Tech, I just had all the confidence in the world that Georgia Tech would pull it out, and they did. And I'm so happy because Haynes King, that dude is a baller, and he's so much fun to watch.
So Parker was right. My Monday headline that I predicted was that Vandy would win in overtime in Columbia against South Carolina. They didn't even need that. They didn't even need close to that. 31-7, Vanderbilt dominates South Carolina, the number 11 team in the country. Vandy now ranked 20th in the AP poll. And I know the first thing, I'm waiting for the text to start pouring in and the YouTube comments. Well, Lenora Sellers was out. Sure. Vandy dominated that game, though. And I also will make the point that on the play Lenora Sellers got hurt, Langston Patterson got thrown out for targeting. And if that was targeting, then someone needs to re-explain the rule to me. Because I thought the whole point of it was you cannot lead with the crown of the helmet. And he hit him with the face mask. I didn't understand it. Maybe I need a retraining of the targeting rules. But he didn't lead with the crown of the helmet. I don't think it should have been targeting. Langston Patterson missed the rest of the game. Lenora Sellers was out. And I understand that is a Heisman candidate quarterback who didn't play. But Vandy was already up at that point. And Vandy outplayed South Carolina for almost that entire game. Zaylen Wood dropping out on the defensive line and jumping right into a passing lane, taking away a red zone trip for South Carolina. Vandy ends up scoring on the other end. I mean, this Commodore team is legit. This is a team with a veteran quarterback who makes all the plays that he needs to. The offensive line is the best that it's been in a long time at Vanderbilt. You've got a first-round pick at tight end. You've got weapons all over the place with Cedric Alexander and MK Young in the backfield. You got Trey Richardson. You got Caleb Barnett. You've got Junior Sherrill. Like, the offense has pieces. And the defense, that defensive line is deep. Like, they just go line changes there, and they've got options on options on options. You got players on the back end with CJ Hurd, the transfer from FAU. Colby Taylor has turned into a great cornerback. He had his growing pains last year after transferring from Wyoming, but he's been great. Martell Height plays all 3 phases. This is a Vandy team that has proven they deserve to be in the college football playoff conversation.
Absolutely. For the first time since 1955, Vanderbilt has won 3 straight games by 20-plus points, and they've beaten a ranked team on the road for the first time in I don't know how long. And just looking at who they have upcoming on their schedule, Georgia State, you can't overlook them since you lost to them last year, but it is at home. And then you have Utah State. There's a good chance that you start 5-0 before you head to Tuscaloosa, and who knows what could happen. Who knows what Alabama team that you're going to get. So after watching Vanderbilt, they are absolutely in the playoff conversation right now. And it is early, and I can't believe we're talking about the playoffs, but Vanderbilt does look very, very good.
You cannot overlook Georgia State and Utah State. You mentioned the loss last year in Atlanta to Georgia State. Vandy has to make sure that they come out ready to play. I think that loss will hopefully keep their heads on straight and keep them from getting too big of an ego heading into this week. And I think Clark Lee is very good at keeping his team focused on the task at hand. But you're right. If all things go as they should, Vanderbilt should be 5-0 heading to Tuscaloosa. And that's going to be a tough game. But with the schedule Vanderbilt's playing, 10-2 gets you in. If Vanderbilt is 10-2 at the end of the year, they are in the playoff. That's a tough ask with the schedule they have remaining. You have to go to Alabama, to Texas, to Tennessee. LSU comes here. You've got Missouri here, Auburn here. Like, only losing 2 of those games is not going to be easy. 9-3 with that schedule, I think, puts you in the conversation at the very least. We talked about it last week of you get put in that Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina spot from last year, and it kind of just depends on what goes your way in the other conferences that could get you in. But Vanderbilt, there was a lot of talk this year heading into the season saying, oh, well, this Vandy team, it's Vanderbilt. They had a good year last year. They're going to regress. And it was just scouting logos. It was just saying, oh, they're Vanderbilt, so they're not going to be able to build off last year's success. And guess what? They're 3-0. They just played 2 power conference teams on the road in back-to-back weeks. And over the last 6 quarters of those games, outscored those 2 teams 65-7. I understand Lenora Sellers wasn't out there for the second half of that game. But that is a Vanderbilt team that imposed their will on the road in back-to-back weeks. They've got to take care of business the next 2 weeks, but we are legitimately looking at a possible top 15 matchup in Tuscaloosa between Alabama and Vanderbilt in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And we said it last week. If Vanderbilt can keep it close with Alabama, you win that game, you take it down to the wire with Alabama, you could have game day in Nashville for that LSU game coming up on October 18th for the first time since James Franklin was here. So
I've already talked to Connor and Frazier. I said, if game day comes to Nashville for that game, we're getting weekend huddle out there.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen.
You should, set up a desk just right next to Reese and Kirk and all those guys. So
a little mini game day.
Right. See if you can get Saban or McAfee to come on for a segment. I loved what I saw from Vanderbilt on Saturday. They played hard, and I understand people are going to make the Lenora Sellers excuse. And I've already seen it of the reaction is, well, maybe South Carolina wasn't as good as we thought they were. Can we give Vandy its flowers? Like, Vanderbilt didn't just win that game. They won by 24 on the road. Back-to-back weeks that they have dominated on the road against power conference teams. And I will have some thoughts on Virginia Tech later because what an absolute unmitigated disaster on Saturday in Blacksburg. We'll get to that later, though. But Vanderbilt, got to give them their flowers. They got to come home. They got to take care of business. I would love, and I think Clark Lee is going to have his guys ready because there's some revenge factor here with Georgia State from last year. I think they're going to blow Georgia State out of the water on Saturday.
I do too, because they remembered the result of the South Carolina game last year, losing 28-7 at home.
Yep.
They remember what happened to Georgia State. This Vanderbilt team, they have a boulder on their shoulder. They hold grudges. They remember. So I think they're going to blow them out as well.
The one I'm a little more worried about is Utah State, because having these back-to-back at home, if you go out and blow out Georgia State, I think maybe it's you could start to have your mind wander to Alabama a little bit. It's like, oh, we took care of business against one of these tune-up games. We'll be fine next week. Utah State's pretty good. They just did they put up 50 against Air Force this weekend? Something like that?
I didn't check, but I can double check.
I believe they did. 49-30 was the score. So Utah State, not a scrub team. This is not playing Charleston Southern. Vandy's going to have to play 2 good games over the next 2 weeks. But man, the idea of a 5-0 top 15 Vanderbilt team heading to Tuscaloosa, that's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. I am so fired up for Clark Lee in this program because, again, 2 years ago, they lost 10 straight to end the year. And there were a lot of questions about whether Clark Lee should keep his job. And instead of being stubborn and sticking with what he thought was his way, he made changes. He fired his coordinators. He brought in Jerry Kill to be a CEO-type guy in that program. He brought in Diego Pavia, and look where they are. They're now 10-6 over their last 16 games under Clark Lee and have a chance to head into Alabama as a top 15 team where a win against Alabama in that game, as long as you take care of business the next 2 weeks, puts you in a playoff spot. I would say, like, if you started to look at
100%.
the bracket, Vandy would be in it.
100%.
And so I'm fired up for this team. I think they proved to everybody on Saturday That they're not just a flash in the pan. And we'll see what happens the next couple weeks. We'll keep talking Vandy on the other side. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you have thoughts on the Commodores' win over South Carolina on Saturday. We'll get back into the Titans coming up in the 10 o'clock hour. Talk about L'Jarius Sneed a little bit in the second hour of the show, because there was some good, there was some bad, but we'll talk about the Titans cornerback coming up in just a couple of segments. We'll stick with Vandy on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday, reacting to what was a great weekend of football. Lots of great games. Titans sadly weren't part of one. But Vanderbilt blows out South Carolina. Commodores are 3-0, now ranked 20th in the nation. And they will have back-to-back home games against Georgia State and Utah State, looking to be 5-0, heading to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. We'll get back into the Titans coming up at the top of the hour, have some thoughts on the defense, and also Dan Moore, who had another rough game yesterday. We'll do all that in the second hour of the show. But Parker, I was just thinking about it. We're going through Vanderbilt's playoff hopes, and I do want to touch more on Tennessee later in the show because what a game in Neyland on Saturday. Instant classic, already up there for game of the year between the Vols and the Bulldogs. But it is possible. You look at the schedule for Tennessee. They've got Alabama, they've got Oklahoma, both ranked games. Oklahoma's look good with John Mateer, but they could be in a spot where maybe you're 9-2 heading into that game with Vanderbilt at the end of the year. Then you look at the Commodores. They've got some tough games. They've got Alabama, they got LSU, they got Texas, but let's say they're 8-3 heading to Neyland at the end of the year. I don't know what the rest of the college football landscape is going to look like in terms of playoff spots and everything. I mean, Notre Dame's 0-2 now. They have to basically win out to have any shot at the playoff. But how crazy would that game be between Vanderbilt and Tennessee and Neyland the weekend after Thanksgiving if both those teams are playing for a shot at the playoff? Like, if Tennessee is 9-2 and a win locks them in, similar to last year for Tennessee, they were 9-2 coming to First Bank Stadium. They needed a win to lock in a playoff spot, and they did. Vanderbilt wasn't in that position. They were 6-5. They already had bowl eligibility locked up. But if in this spot, if they're 8-3 and a win would put them in the conversation to make the playoffs, what a game that would be, what an atmosphere that would be. And I think that could spark this rivalry, taking it to the next level. Like, I know Vanderbilt fans all hate Tennessee. Tennessee, for a long time, obviously, has kind of felt like maybe Alabama and Florida and Georgia were bigger rivals because those rivalries were more competitive. But if you've got a playoff opportunity on the line in the final game of the season, I think that could spark this rivalry to take it to a completely different level.
I've always said that Tennessee fans, this rivalry with Vanderbilt is certainly more of a it's bigger when it comes to baseball, but just depending on how good Vanderbilt is in football, that kind of changes the complexion of the rivalry because Tennessee fans are more focused on the big three, Alabama, Florida, Bama. But when Vanderbilt is as good as they are, at least through 3 weeks right now, that can definitely bring this rivalry, kick it up a notch.
I know. I'm looking ahead, and I understand it's all hypothetical. Things could go in completely different directions for both of these teams. But just slowly, like letting my mind leak to the end of November, that could be a really fun one. That could be a really fun game. 2459 on our text line says, I'm a Carolina fan, and I just want to say I give props to Vandy. They beat the brakes off my Gamecocks. I will not make excuses. Vandy is good, and I will pull for them as well as my Gamecocks. Yeah, I mean, for South Carolina, I understand it. It's tough that Lenora Sellers got hurt and didn't play that entire second half. That took any chance of them making a comeback out of the picture. But Vandy, they got the ball up 14-7 early in that third quarter, and Lassiter had the long touchdown run, and it was over at that point. You just couldn't see South Carolina coming back. South Carolina, though, as long as Lenora Sellers is healthy and isn't going to miss an extended period of time, maybe that injury does give you some grace with the College Football Playoff Committee. Of like, yeah, they lost by 24 to Vandy, but maybe the playoff committee will take the Sellers injury into account when looking at their resume later on in the year. I don't know. I think South Carolina, still a good team. Dylan Stewart was thrown out of that game late due to unsportsmanlike conduct, but I believe Shane Beamer said that won't affect him for next week. So that's good for the Gamecocks. Vanderbilt, they went in there. They imposed their will, 31-7. Again, over the last 6 quarters of football, on the road, in hostile environments, 65-7. 65-7 for Vanderbilt. And I believe I saw that was only their 3rd ranked win on the road for the Titan, for Vanderbilt. We'll get back into the Titans in program history. Like it's really impressive for Clark Lee and company. I'm excited to see what the rest of the season brings. Again, you got 2 games where Vanderbilt, they have to win these next 2. You've got to lock in. I understand that the letdown, the emotional letdown, I think is obvious that you come off those back-to-back road wins. Hopefully the revenge factor will keep you locked in against Georgia State. I'm a little worried about the Utah State one just because it falls into that little gap right before Alabama where you could catch yourself looking ahead. Vanderbilt, if they can get to 5-0, they put themselves right in the thick of the college football playoff conversation. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Again, big props to Vandy. We talked about it last week, how big of a game that was for them, and I predicted they'd win in overtime. They won 31-7. Huge for Clark Lee, and excited to see where that program goes the rest of the year. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next. A couple of high-priced free agent and trade acquisitions. There was some good, there was some bad. We'll talk about L'Jarius Sneed, Calvin Ridley, Dan Moore coming up, hour number 2 here on this Monday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour, Monday edition, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, reacting to all of the football this weekend. Lots of great games across college, NFL. Titans fall 33-19 to the Rams. We get back into the two-tone blue home opener yesterday, and the Titans hung in there for the most part in that game until the last quarter and a half when the Rams put the pedal to the metal, showed that they were the more talented team, got a couple of big touchdowns, the strip sack on Cam Ward, and pulled away for a 2-touchdown victory. Let's go to L'Jarius Sneed here, because I've seen a lot of mixed reactions to L'Jarius Sneed's performance yesterday. And first off, the most important thing with L'Jarius Sneed is that he played a lot yesterday. I haven't seen, did TD tweet out the snap counts? I believe he did.
Jim Wyatt did. I can double check.
Yeah,
I do know he played the entirety of. Well, he played
right.
At least 3/4.
He played way more than I thought. Here you go. Yeah, Jim Wyatt did tweet these out. L'Jarius Sneed played 56 snaps, 92% of the snaps. So for being on a 20 snap pitch count last week to basically playing the entire game for L'Jarius Sneed. And I've seen some tweets and comments that L'Jarius Sneed played bad, and it confuses me because obviously the one play that a lot of people are going to remember is he did get burnt by Davante Adams on the touchdown pass down the sideline on third down. Like it was not a good play. Adams hit him with the stutter step, got some separation. Sneed couldn't catch up. He gave up the touchdown. So Sneed wasn't perfect yesterday, but the 2 goal line stands the Titans had where they held the Rams to 3, and in a close game at that point, those were huge plays. L'Jarius Sneed could be personally responsible for both of them. He made some great plays against Davante Adams. Now, he probably got away with some contact, but when you're L'Jarius Sneed and you have that kind of pedigree of being one of the better cornerbacks in the league like he was in Kansas City, I think you avoid some of those calls that maybe a Jarvis Brownlee would get. And I really thought that was the best we've seen L'Jarius Sneed look at a Titans uniform. Was it perfect? No. But I think it shows you that he still can be an above average level cornerback, which is what you need with that room being as thin as it is.
What have we been saying? Just play like a top 20 corner, and that helps this secondary tremendously. He had a nice pass breakup last week versus Cortland Sutton that I'm like, okay, that kind of looks like the L'Jarius Sneed of old. He looked good for the most part yesterday, did give up the touchdown late to Davante Adams, but other than that, the fact that he played as much as he did without practicing a majority of the offseason, that is encouraging.
Yeah, he was sticky on Davante Adams, which I'd be interested to see how he does against more speed, because that did hurt him last year. Like Tyreek Hill, I understand he just broke his streak, by the way, of no 30-plus yard catches for over a year. He did have one yesterday in the Dolphins' loss to the Patriots, which underrated game, by the way. That game with the Patriots and Dolphins didn't get a lot of eyes because I don't think either of those teams are all that good. But the Dolphins return a punt for a touchdown, and then the Patriots return the ensuing kickoff for a touchdown. They end up winning that game. But I thought L'Jarius Sneed overall looked really good. And that is so massive for this team, because we saw the Titans trying to blitz just over and over and over against the Rams and couldn't get home. And I think part of that is that McVay and Stafford are so experienced, and it's like they are ready for everything. And Stafford he's going to get the ball out fast. But I think it's also going to be a problem all year that the Titans just aren't going to be able to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I always knew that McVay was a great play caller, one of the best, because all of his assistant coaches, wherever they go to be head coaches, it seems like they always pan out, the McVay, Shanahan trees. But just seeing it yesterday in person for myself, it was tremendous. I believe it was either a 3rd and short, 4th and short in the first quarter, and the play call I thought was just brilliant. He had Matthew Stafford do a little RPO, get out on the move a little bit on the roll to the right, dump it off to Davis Warren, I believe it was, one of the tight ends.
Maybe Higbee.
Yeah, Higbee, that's who it was. Got the touchdown. It was just beautiful. It was just like situational football. Like that's what it should look like.
Yeah, I thought the Titans were outmatched talent-wise and, of course, coaching-wise. Even though I think Brian Callahan wasn't an outright disaster yesterday, he still got outcoached by Sean McVay, which most coaches are going to get outcoached by Sean McVay. He's a great coach. And then you also have, like, the Titans just didn't make enough plays, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That 4th and 1 on the first drive of the game, Xavier Woods had Puka Nacua dead to rights. And I think Xavier Woods has played really well early on in his Titans career. He has made plays.
Yep.
Like, he thumped a guy yesterday and knocked the ball out. I think he's played well, but man, on that play, 4th and 1, when you had it stopped and then it goes for a touchdown, that just can't happen. And those are the types of plays that the Titans just aren't making. That's the difference between winning and losing. And that wasn't good enough. And then they just didn't get enough pressure. Is it 2 sacks in 2 games now for the Titans? Well, you've given up 11.
Yeah. I have the sack breakdown here in a second, but yeah, no pressure on Stafford yesterday.
Right.
They
got
pressure.
The 1 sack on the blitz with Hooker, which, again, they didn't really get home. Stafford just kind of lost his balance as he tried to step up in the pocket. They blitzed over and over because the edge could not get any kind of pressure. I saw Jeffrey Simmons beat 1 double team, and he did forced a punt early on in the game. So Jeffrey Simmons, he wasn't as impactful as he was in week 1, but he did show up a couple of times. But the edge position was just non-existent. Just completely non-existent. There was not a single time where I noticed Draymond Jones, Arden Key. There was one play, and I wrote it down. There was one play where Femi was decent. It was on the 3rd down play right before the Puka end around for a touchdown. Femi did blow up the tight end and ended up causing that run to come up short. So I will give Femi Oladejo credit. I saw him 1 time. But outside of that, the edge rushers were pretty much non-factors. And when you did blitz, no one got home. That cannot happen. It just cannot happen. But L'Jarius Sneed playing well does at least make you feel better about what the back end could be. Roger McCreary made another play yesterday. No penalties for Jarvis Brownlee yesterday, at least that I can remember. And your safety plays good. Kevin Winston hopefully will be back next week, you would think. But overall, the defense took a step back yesterday. And it was against a much better offense and a much better quarterback. But the defense that we saw in Denver did not show up yesterday, especially in the second half against the Rams. Matthew in Nashville asking, what did y'all think about the blindside block on what would have been a punt return touchdown for DK? Yeah, we mentioned this earlier. It was the right call. Like, Cedric Gray was blocking back towards his own end zone. That is, by the letter of the law, that is an illegal blindside block. Like, yeah, the guy saw him, but that's why they've instituted this rule of, like, what you need to do is just get in their way. As long as you don't engage with them, it's not a penalty. Just go and stand in their way and throw your arms up like that. Like, that would have been fine, and DK likely would have scored, but you can't block moving back towards your own goal line. Cedric Gray did it. Again, didn't end up really mattering because the Titans did go down and score, but it would have been nice. Would have been the Titans' first punt return touchdown in 13 years.
The crowd was fired up after that, too. They were fired up. They needed something to be fired up about.
Yeah. Did Ring of Fire play after the punt return before the flag came in?
It did.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
so they did get the trumpets going?
It did. Yeah.
Right. Like, it stinks. I think it was the right call, but it obviously is disappointing because the special teams, and we'll get into this a little bit later, too, I thought the special teams were great again. Bones Fossil, man. He has come in and made that unit so far, I would say one of the best in the league. Like, you blocked an extra point yesterday, too. Joey Sly has been perfect through 2 weeks, and they've needed him a lot because they can't seem to score when they get across midfield. Like, it's been a really good start for special teams. Shout out to Bones Fossil. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. More on the Titans coming up next. The offensive line. Not good again. 11 sacks through 2 weeks. And Cam Ward deserves blame for part of it, but they aren't getting enough out of a highly priced free agent in Dan Moore. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game.
We just felt like John is a steadier performer. He had better knowledge of what was being asked of him over the course of the week, and decided to make that move. And again, I don't know that he was necessarily good enough at the moment either. So we'll reevaluate that again, but we'll see.
That was Brian Callahan talking about the decision to start John Ojukwu at right tackle in the absence of J.C. Latham yesterday. And for Ojukwu, it wasn't good, especially early. Had a false start and then got beat pretty much immediately to start off the day. It wasn't, I wouldn't call it quite like a Dennis Daly, Andre Dillard disaster, Nicholas Petit Frere, but it wasn't good. in any way. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. We were just talking defense for the Titans yesterday. We flip over to the offense. I will say Corey Curtis texted me on my personal text line, and we'll have Corey on Wednesday for the full show. He said, I did notice Arden Key when he lined up off sides. And I believe Draymond Jones might have done that too. So, yeah, I guess that's the only time you really noticed the Titans pass rushers yesterday.
I second that, Corey.
Yes. Not a good day for the Titans pass rush. Not a good day for the Titans tackles. And Dan Moore is, Dan Moore is number one on that list. Even though John Ojukwu wasn't good, did we expect John Ojukwu to be all that good? No. Dan Moore came in with an $80 million contract, and he has been absolutely disastrous through 2 weeks. Like, gave up the most pressures in the league in week 1. And yesterday he got blown by multiple times. There were a couple times where it looked like his feet were stuck in the mud while Verse or Byron Young or whoever it is just ran right past him. Dan Moore's got to be better. And I know it's early. It's only week 2. And sometimes it takes a little bit for these veteran offensive linemen to adjust to a new offensive line coach who they're playing next to. But Dan Moore hasn't been good enough. And I will say, please, J.C. Latham be healthy enough to play this week, because you cannot have 2 liabilities at tackle. And I think J.C. Latham, when healthy, is a really good right tackle. I think he will be. He wasn't healthy against the Broncos, and he wasn't very good. But if he can be healthy, at the very least, the Titans have to feel okay about their offensive line. But right now, those pass rushers on the other side are just pinning their ears back and going to work against 2 guys who have just not been good enough.
Here's a stat courtesy of Paul Kaharski. The Titans' sacks allowed of Will Levis through first 2 weeks of 2024, 3 against the Chicago Bears, 4 against New York Giants, 7 in total. Sacks allowed of Cam Ward through first 2 weeks of 2025, 6 against the Broncos, 5 against the Rams, 11 total. So that's 4 more than in the first 2 weeks than last year in 2024.
Yeah, and Cam Ward is not absolved of blame for some of these sacks. He has held the ball too long. And actually, I just saw Willie Donick, who you can hear starting at 3 o'clock on DVD. He tweeted out a screenshot of the play where Cam Ward was stripped and ended up setting up what ended up being the final nail in the coffin for the Titans yesterday. And had a pretty clean pocket with Chigakonkwo open on a drag route running across his face. Didn't see him. Ended up leaving the ball a little bit too loose, got it poked out, and ends up really the game was over at that point. The Titans had a chance to get a stop and see if they could keep it within 1 score, but it felt pretty over at that point. And Cam Ward's got to be better at going through his reads quickly and getting the ball out fast. He has to be better. But I'd say more often than not, the sacks have been on instant pressure against these tackles. Dan Moore, especially, it cannot be this bad when you're paying him $82 million. And I understand it's not like you signed him expecting him to be an all-pro. We said that since he was signed. I was on the air the day he was signed, pretty much 5 minutes after he was signed. And we said that, yeah, pretty much by all accounts, this is the best tackle that you could go get on the market, because good tackles don't hit the market. But he hasn't even been serviceable. And that's all you were hoping for, I think, with Dan Moore. He has not been serviceable. On our YouTube chat, Josh asks, who's replacing him? If the Titans don't have Moore, they have no left tackle. If Latham is hurt, they have no right tackle. Yeah, no one's replacing him. It's Dan Moore's job. Like, I'm not advocating for him to get benched, because we know that it's worse behind him with Ojukwu or Udo or Crenshaw Dixon, who I guess just got waived, which they made a whole big deal about how they didn't want to risk losing young, talented tackles, and then they waive him to call Corey Levin up. It's really not good. Steven from Hendersonville says Dan Moore is stealing every time he cashes his paycheck. It's only 2 weeks. Again, like, it is early to completely condemn Dan Moore and his signing as a disaster, but he's been really, really, really bad through 2 weeks. And it has to start now. Like, he's got to get better now against the Colts, because Cam Ward can't keep getting sacked 5 times a game. That is just not sustainable. Eventually, he's going to get hurt. Ricky says we played way better defenses the first 2 weeks this year too, and that's fair. Like, in terms of pass rushes, this might be the 2 best pass rushes that you see all year long. You're getting Benito, you're getting Verse, you're getting Young, Fisk. Like, you faced 2 really good pass rushes back-to-back weeks to start the year. So patience has to be preached here, that you're not benching Dan Moore, you're not cutting Dan Moore after 2 bad weeks. But if you're going to keep your young quarterback healthy and on the field, that is basically the main point of this season, is for Cam Ward to develop. He's got to be on the field. And with that, he can't keep getting sacked 5 times a game. That starts with Dan Moore.
Yeah. And it's like I've been saying, like, you're not competing in the AFC North anymore. So you're not going up against TJ Watt. You're not going up against Myles Garrett. You're not going up against Trey Hendrickson all the time. You're competing in the AFC South, a lot lesser. There's still some great edge rushers, but a lot lesser talent in the edge rusher department. If I'm paying $80 million for you, I expect you to at least hold up your end of the bargain.
Yep.
You're not an elite level left tackle, clearly, but I got to get more than what I'm seeing right now, no pun intended.
And on the edge this week, these aren't scrubs. Kwity Paye and Leatu Latu, who actually is hurt right now. So whether he plays or not, that's yet to be seen. We'll find out later this week. Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, JT Tuiomolao. Like, there are some talented pass rushers on there, but there's nobody like the last 2 weeks where it's like we have to game plan specifically for this game wrecker. And Dan Moore, you're paying him that much money. He's going to have to be on an island with the best pass rusher for the other team a lot of the time. You can give him help when you can, but like, you're paying this guy this much money. You have to be able to trust him. And so far, you haven't been able to do that. Cam Ward, again, he deserves some blame for these sacks too. And I thought he was better this week at getting the ball out. There was a couple of times where he did the smart thing and just got it away when the pressure came. But he also has to improve. It's a team. Sacks are a team stat, not specifically an individual every single time. But Dan Moore has been a liability on the line. It has to be better. And man, JC Latham, he's got to be back. He's got to be healthy. It is very good news that he didn't go on IR, right? Because if they were going to put him on IR, it would have happened last week. You're not going to do it this week and make him miss 4 games. So I would think that maybe JC Latham is going to be back this week. But if he's not, you need the guys who are in there to perform better. And that starts with Bill Callahan. I know a lot of people are going after the Callahans, and Brian has had his issues, but Bill has to, you clearly consulted Bill when you signed Dan Moore, right? Like, I can't be under the impression that they just signed Moore and said, here you go, Bill, fix this one. Like, you would think that Bill Callahan was consulted and said that he saw something in Moore that he could turn into a good left tackle. And you got to earn your money at some point. Both of you guys, Bill Callahan, Dan Moore, you got to find a way to make this offensive line better. And right now, 11 sacks through 2 games. You're on track for what? 90-something sacks?
Yeah, and it wasn't all like Dan Moore was. You didn't really notice him as much as some of the other guys. There were some penalties on Kevin Zeitler. Right tackle obviously is going to be a turnstile without JC Latham. It's just this collective unit. We haven't seen progress,
Yep.
and that's the frustrating thing when you have an offensive line guru like Bill Callahan. You just haven't seen it.
Yep.
Haven't seen the product on the field.
Yeah, 93.5 sacks is what the Titans are on track for. I would really, really hope that trend doesn't stay consistent. I mean, that would be, what's the record for most times being sacked in a season?
Last year, I think, with the Bears and Caleb Williams.
68?
Yeah, I think that might be the record. I can double check.
I mean, I don't think the Titans are going to be most sacks allowed by a team is 104. At least that's what I'm getting on. Yeah. 104 sacks allowed by the Eagles in 1986. Whew. That's really bad.
It could always be worse.
I guess it could always be worse. The Giants second at 85 in 2023. So currently the Titans are on pace for the second most sacks allowed in NFL history. It's early. Again, they're not going to give up 93 sacks, but that is 104. I am shocked that that happened. And that's in a 16-game season too. The Bears last year were 11th most all time with 68. So Titans on track for a historically bad sack season. Again, it's 2 weeks. I'll keep saying it. There is room for improvement, of course, but it has to start now. Like you can't have Cam Ward keep getting hit because eventually he's going to get hurt. And no one wants to see Brandon Allen out there. I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sure you're a really good guy. You're talented enough to play in the NFL, but no one wants to watch Brandon Allen play quarterback. And you're getting close to that if you keep letting Cam Ward get hit as much as he has. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. More on the Titans coming up here on the program. Also, we will get into the rest of the crazy weekend of college football. We haven't dove into Tennessee, Georgia. We'll talk a little bit about that game in the final hour. Also, Notre Dame A&M, LSU beats Florida State, and then Brian Kelly embarrasses himself at the podium again after, and plenty more on the Titans. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Reaction Monday here after the Titans fall 33-19 to the Rams yesterday at Nissan Stadium. 0-2 on the year. They'll look to rebound at home again against the Colts on Sunday. We've had a lot of bad things to say about the Titans so far. I will get a little positive here just for one segment and say that despite all of the bad things the Titans have done, I actually think they've done better than I expected them to through 2 weeks. Is that crazy to say, Parker, that, last week, all of the coaching issues, if you want to call them that, coaching mishaps, and then yesterday just got out-talented late in the game, but I didn't really expect them to be in either of these games in the second half. The Rams and Broncos, I look at those teams as just bad matchups for the Titans. And to be fair, they were in both of those games in the second half. They were winning at halftime against the Rams yesterday. They were winning in the second half against the Broncos last week. Not saying they've done well, but the way this roster is constructed, I didn't think that they were going to match up well with either the Broncos or the Rams, especially with a rookie quarterback making his first couple of starts. And to be honest, I think that they have competed better than I expected. But again, it's, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Like
the famous saying.
Right. Like, you don't take moral victories, but I will say I did not expect them to be in those games in the second half and giving you the thought of like, hey, they could win these. They could win. And they had that feeling in both those games. Obviously, neither of them work out. And that's something that has to improve. You got to be able to, this was an issue back before the Titans got to those 5 or 6 straight winning seasons from 16 to 21, where they just couldn't get over the hump. Like, you were competitive, but the good teams put you away late. They have to find a way to play a full 60 minutes. They're just not there yet against good teams. But the roster's not good. The coaching hasn't been good. You've got a rookie quarterback back there. And despite all that, they've been in these games with good teams. So, not to say that they've played well, because they haven't, but they've been competitive. They've been in these games, and you got to give them a little bit of props for that. There was a text earlier that I wanted to get to. Here we go. 0598. This is a long text into our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Says, I'm trying to approach this season with one word: patience. Not trying to defend some of the coaching decisions. However, my question is, do we continue to set unrealistic expectations? We knew we were going to be bad. We knew we were going to be rebuilding. We knew we lacked talent on this roster. We know the goal, which is to rebuild through the draft. So why do we panic when we lose games? Again, we knew this was going to happen. And I think that's a great way to put it from 0598, is that, yes, heading into the season, everybody kind of knew that this team wasn't going to be very good. But I think once you get into a football game and the clock actually starts running and you spot the ball, all that kind of goes away for fans. It's like, yeah, I had low expectations, but now that they're playing the game, I want to see them win. And I understand that when you're in these games and you come up short, it feels like you're disappointed in the way the team played. But it's like, there should be low expectations. The Titans themselves have set low expectations for this team. Like, again, everybody goes back to the Big Joe Dubin question. Like,
Chad Brinker laughed.
Big Joe asked, can this team win the Super Bowl? And Chad Brinker giggled, and Mike Borgonzi kind of brushed it off and just said, we got a lot of work to do. Like, that's always the goal, but we got a lot of work to do. They're telling you that this team is not going to be a playoff contender this year. And everybody should know that based on the way this team is constructed. This season is about two things. Is Brian Callahan your head coach moving forward? Is Cam Ward your quarterback for the long haul? So far, I think you're starting to get answers on both of those things. It's early, and you've got to see how both of them develop. But right now, Brian Callahan trending in the wrong direction, and I think Cam Ward trending in the right direction.
Fair enough to say. I guess if we're taking a glass half full approach, they haven't gotten absolutely pantsed like I thought they would in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
So I was expecting the LA Rams game to be way worse than the Broncos game. It was not. Cam Ward has taken some steps in the right direction. Brian Callahan has not done anything to save his job. but at least Cam Ward has taken steps in the right direction. Your hopeful franchise quarterback, Alec Ayomanor, has had some great performances the last 2 weeks. So if you're looking for things to hang your hat on, that's certainly two things.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what the Lions did to the Bears yesterday. I expected one of these games to go that way, right? Like heading into the season, you look at these matchups, I expected either the Broncos or the Rams, like you said, to just pants the Titans. Kind of like the Lions game for the Titans last year, the Commanders game, where it's over midway through the second quarter and you're just watching to see what Cam Ward can do in garbage time. Yeah, it got to garbage time yesterday, but Cam Ward had the ball late in that game, down by 4, and he fumbled it. Like it's little plays here and there, little mistakes that have taken the Titans out of these games and not allowed them to come through. This team's not talented enough to compete with playoff teams right now, to win games with playoff teams right now. But I'm excited to see what they do on Sunday, because I think the Colts are a much better matchup on paper. I know the Colts they've been one of the best teams in football so far this year. They haven't punted yet this season. Like, how crazy is that to say that a Daniel Jones-led Colts offense has not punted yet this year? So I'm not saying the Colts are a bad team, but I think it's a better matchup on paper for the Titans. And I'm excited to see what the Titans can do against a team that has lower expectations than what you've seen in the first week. So I think the Titans have, in some ways, exceeded expectations by being in these games late, but also the way they've lost the games has not been good in terms of the sins still popping up, bad game management decisions. And, Cam Ward, we've talked about how he's taken care of the football pretty well through the first couple of weeks. No interceptions, but he did fumble in a huge spot, ended up costing the Titans a chance to come back in that game.
And with the Broncos game, it's not like the Titans put themselves in an opportunity to win the game, but the opportunity presented itself because the Broncos turned the ball over so much, which the Titans did force on the defensive end. So at least that's a positive thing to look at. And you had the lead over the Rams at half. You just forgot how to play football in the second.
Right. And as this team rebuilds and continues to improve, you'll hopefully see them play better late into games and be able to hang with these teams longer. But right now, they're just not there. Wes in Clarksville on our text line says, have faith, guys. We have the same record as the Chiefs. It's very true. It is very true.
There we go.
The Titans and Chiefs, both 0-2. Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dylan is on the line wanting to chime in. Dylan, good morning. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to say I want to respectfully disagree with Trey. He called in earlier.
We've gotten a lot of that.
Saying that the Brights, yeah. So I actually think Calvin Ridley has been he's just not lived up to what he's supposed to be. But I think the bright spot for me has actually been this draft class. I think everyone from Gunnar Helm, Ayomanor, DK, Cam Ward, I think this draft class in general has been a huge bright spot because it's been so long since we've had this many picks feel like they are hitting. And then I also want to talk about Bill Callahan. I know that, he got a lot of crap last year, but, he had bad players last year, and we were expecting him to make bad players good. This year, I feel like there's solid players, and I feel like he's supposed to be elevating them to play better than they're supposed to be, kind of like the way Vrabel would get his teams to. But it just seems like Bill Callahan isn't getting the line to take that next step or elevate them. And I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Thanks for the call, Dylan. No, it's a good point because Bill Callahan, you brought in Bill with Brian because he was supposed to be the guy who, like Dylan said, could elevate offensive line play. There's a difference between making bad players good. You can't do that. Nicolas Petit-Frere was a bad player. They couldn't make him good. That was a bad evaluation from them, too, thinking that they could just run with Nicolas Petit-Frere at right tackle and figure it out. But this year, I've gone through the investment on the offensive line 100 times, all the money that's gone into that, all the draft capital. Bill Callahan should be able to work with that group. And so far, 11 sacks just isn't good enough. And I think he'd tell you that, too. It is early. It's only week 2. Sometimes these things take time, but you have to start seeing the development and the progress now. Like you can't just let Cam Ward sit back there and get hit 5-10 times a game. They've got to keep him clean, and it just hasn't been good enough. On Calvin Ridley, like Trey was saying that Calvin Ridley's the only bright spot right now. I don't really understand that.
No.
Like Calvin Ridley hasn't looked very good through the first 2 weeks.
Ellick was the star receiver yesterday,
Right.
not Calvin.
And the rookies, if you're looking for hope as a Titans fan, look at the young players. And it stinks that J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat are both hurt, because those are two more guys who you expect to be foundational pieces when this team starts to be good again. But the rookies have all pretty much stood out. Like Cam Ward looks good. I think Femi is a work in progress. Like I don't know if you're going to leave this season thinking that Femi is going to be a star, but let's see a year in the system what he can do next year. That it feels more like
he's the definition of a project. He hasn't played outside backer / edge rusher for even an entire calendar year yet.
Right. Like I don't know if you can't really judge Femi a ton on the production this year. But those fourth round pass catchers, Chim looks like a great returner, and he's made some plays on the offensive side of the ball. Ellick looks like he could be a legit wide receiver in this league. I'm not saying like a wide receiver 1, but he could end up being you need a number 2. I think he could end up being your number 2, and then you draft somebody early to end up being the running mate with those two guys. Gunnar Helm has made some plays. I really like this rookie class. And if Sweat and Latham get healthy and continue to show development, you can see the core that this team is trying to build around. And that's important. But, right now, that core being as young as they are isn't going to lead to a ton of wins. And we've seen that so far.
Right. This team is starting from the stubs. And at least there are some foundational pieces that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I wanted to make just one quick point on the offensive line real quick. Bill Callahan's not Jesus. And the people that they had on the offensive line last year, he can't turn water into wine.
No.
He can't do that. This year, if you don't think that Bill Callahan had a say in the signing of Dan Moore, you're crazy, because he did. But there's nothing that you can do about the depth at tackle. It's just not there. If you don't have J.C. Latham out there, I don't even think Jeff Stoutland with the Eagles can fix that. But when J.C. Latham is out there and the offensive line is still not gelling to the level that you would hope, that's the part that I'm concerned about.
Right. J.C. Latham has to get healthy. And when those 5 guys are out there consistently, you have to see them play better. And it's obvious, but like the offensive line going to play a huge role in Cam Ward's development this year. If they keep getting him sacked 5 times a game, he's not going to be out there very long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I'm going to call soon. Hold your breath and prepare for greatness. So I guess we'll wait and see when Dustin
got to beat out Trey.
Yeah, Trey already has call of the morning so far. We're going to have a quick segment coming up next. I have something I have to get off my chest. The funeral of Virginia Tech football coming up. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, wrapping up hour number 2. We'll have more on the Titans throughout the rest of the show. Also going to talk Tennessee and Georgia, instant classic, Saturday afternoon. But on Saturday night, Virginia Tech football finally met its end. The Hokies, once a proud program of the ACC, are no longer, falling behind 38-7 to Old Dominion on their home turf, eventually falling 45-26. What a disgrace on Saturday night in Blacksburg. I grew up going to games in Blacksburg where Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback and Virginia Tech was a top 10 team competing to try and go play for a national championship. And now this team is 0-3 for the first time since Frank Beamer's first year as the head coach in 1987. Brent Pry has been fired. So at the very least, Virginia Tech knows how to do something. They did get rid of Brent Pry, and we'll see who they bring in. But the death of Virginia Tech football happened in 3 parts, all bookended by ODU losses. Back in 2018, Virginia Tech was 2-0, having beaten a ranked Florida State team in Tallahassee and blown out William and Mary, and they were the number 12 team in the country. They went to Norfolk, Virginia, and lost 49-35 to ODU. That was the start of the end of Virginia Tech football. A couple years later, Justin Fuente gets fired. Virginia Tech brings in Brent Pry, thinking maybe this up-and-coming coordinator could be the CEO-type guy that they need to bring Virginia Tech back to greatness. Guess where his first game is? Norfolk, Virginia. And they lose to Old Dominion for the second time in 4 years. And on Saturday night, Brent Pry's career as the head coach at Virginia Tech bookended by losses to the Old Dominion Monarchs. And this one, the most embarrassing yet. Down 28-0 at halftime to ODU on your home field at night. 38-7 in the second half. Embarrassing. Just embarrassing. And Brent Pry no longer the head coach at Virginia Tech. I don't think it'll ever get back to where it was. I think at this point, Hokies fans should just be out there hoping that you can get a coach who can get you to 7 or 8 wins every year. But Virginia Tech football is dead, and I don't think it's ever coming back. Bookended by losses to the Monarchs. Ricky Ronnie has officially put the final nail in the coffin for the Hokies.
Jake, I just want to say I want to send my sincerest condolences to you and to all of Blacksburg. It's a shame that when we talk about Virginia Tech football, it's Enter Sandman, and that is it. I saw the halftime line, and I immediately thought of you, my friend. I'm so sorry. The good news is you have Wofford this week. Maybe that's a win.
It's the last winnable game on the schedule, it seems.
Yeah.
The Philip Montgomery, the OC, is going to be the interim head coach. I mean, I texted. So my older sister went to Old Dominion. So there's kind of a little family rivalry there. And since they had beaten Tech twice, we were texting about it on Saturday. And about an hour before the game, I texted, I guarantee the Hokies will not lose this game. Tech by 20. Just thinking like they got embarrassed by Vanderbilt in the second half. They're going to bounce back. Like that was my only thought was like, there has to be some sort of pride from this team of like, you just got outgained by 300 yards in the second half a week ago, and you've got ODU coming in this week. I thought they were going to prove that there's still a little bit of fight, but they gave up on Brent Pry. And clearly Brent Pry no longer the head coach. And I texted my family when it was 21-0. I said, that may have been the worst guarantee of my life. Virginia Tech football is dead. Brent Pry should be fired tomorrow, and he was. I don't know who I want the Hokies to hire. I mean, they're up-and-coming guys. The guy that people keep talking about is Michael Vick. Like, and I get he's not doing very well with Norfolk State, but it's like maybe that's something to bring the juice back to the program.
That would bring some juice back.
Shane Beamer's going to get a call. I don't think he might just say wrong number and hang up. Like I don't think he wants to come back to Blacksburg. It's a disaster. The only thing that kept me from being absolutely depressed on Saturday night was watching Vandy just boat race South Carolina on the other screen. I dual screened it. Actually, I had the 4-box up on YouTube TV. and
Very
had
helpful for times like this.
right. And so at least I could just turn my attention slightly to Vanderbilt beating South Carolina 31-7. I'm full on anchor down now. We're Vandying the until Virginia Tech football proves that they can be competent again and not be the laughing stock of that state. Like they might be the fifth best team in Virginia right now. And that's sad
Yeah,
because
that is sad.
they were the
Ooh.
no doubt they were the standard in the state of Virginia for 30 years. I mean, UVA's only beaten Virginia Tech twice in my lifetime. That's going to change this year.
Who else would be Liberty?
Liberty,
would...
JMU, ODU.
Yeah?
I'd put all those
The
teams
Dukes?
above Virginia Tech right now.
And
it's
if you
sad.
need me to go get you some tissues, I can
It's
real
sad.
quick.
There we go. My funeral to Virginia Tech football.
RIP.
We had this quick segment at the end of the hour, and I had to get that off my chest.
It was a good run.
It was a good run. The Hokies are done. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into the Titans. We'll get into the Vols a little bit coming up on the other side. Vols in Georgia. What a game on Saturday. And we'll talk about it coming up next. Tennessee may not have won the game, and I know there are no moral victories, but they look like a playoff team on Saturday. Also, some other big games on Saturday. And again, we'll get more into the Titans' loss to the Rams 33-19 on Sunday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, final hour coming up next year on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Plenty more to get to on the Titans' 33-19 loss yesterday at Nissan Stadium to the Rams. Titans now 0-2, 8 straight losses dating back to last year. We will talk more Titans, but we haven't gotten into the Vols in Georgia yet, which possible game of the year. And I know Tennessee fans, you don't want to, there are no moral victories. You wanted to win that game. You should have won that game, but it was a heck of a game. And at the very least, I think we saw that this Tennessee team that had a lot of question marks heading into the year, and I will say was missing two best cornerbacks on Saturday. They played with and better than Georgia for a decent portion of that game. You look at a couple of plays that obviously ended up deciding it. The London Humphreys 4th and 6 touchdown ended up tying the game after the 2-point conversion. And of course, the false start right before the field goal came out. And, you don't know, he could have missed it either way, but a couple of plays ended up deciding that game. Parker, I have to say, after the strip sack on Gunnar Stockton, I thought it was game over. I thought Tennessee had that game in the bag, and I'm sure that's not a novel thought. I think there were probably plenty of Tennessee fans who thought that too. Georgia's a good team, though, and they made just enough plays to win that game. But overall, I think it was pretty clear both those teams are playoff caliber squads.
No, what I've learned in my lifetime being a Tennessee football fan, it's never over until it's over. And clearly that was on display. And after that first quarter of Joey Aguilar, Tennessee scoring 21 points, Tennessee has never scored more than 17 points against Georgia under Josh Heupel. Yeah. And they scored 21 points
in the first quarter.
After that, I was like, you literally got this quarterback 4 months ago, and he probably didn't even know where Tennessee was on the map. Just kidding. He probably did. But what he was able to do with Joey Aguilar, Josh Heupel's a wizard. He shouldn't have been able to do what he did with Joey Aguilar.
And Chris Brazzell, twice, just somehow making these contested catches. So impressive. And I love the guts from Joey Aguilar to say, you know what? We got one-on-one coverage. I got a 6'5" receiver down there. I'm going to go give him a chance to make a play. And both times it ended up being a touchdown, one early, one later on in the game. It's a game that Tennessee should have won. You were up by 8 late in the game. You had Georgia 4th down in field goal range, but obviously they weren't going to kick it that late in the game. And then you get into field goal range with a chance to win it. I saw a Tennessee fan tweet out that was the Alabama game in 2022. They just missed the field goal. Like it was, I know that game
probably
was like 49-49 instead of 38-38 at the end, but the kick just went wide right. And it happens sometimes. It's college kickers, man. Like that is the biggest moment of that kid's life, Max Gilbert. Like he stepped out there and it's like your life is going to go one way or the other based on you, whether you make or miss that kick. And it's tough. Like it's the life of a college kicker. And I'm sure he's had a tough couple of days, but he did make the one in overtime from the same spot, which is tough.
Yeah. And please don't, I'm pleading with Vols fans, please don't pile on this kicker. This was the first time that he's ever had a chance of even kicking a game-tying or a game-winning field goal. I was watching the game with my parents, and I looked at my mom, and I said, I could see the fear in his eyes right before he's kicking it because there are 100,000 people right on top of you. This game is gone down to the wire. The monkey is still on Josh Heupel's back of not being able to beat Georgia. There's so much pressure on this kid who's never been in this situation before, and he missed the field goal. I don't think the penalty had much to do with it. Yeah, it was stupid, but I don't think because the field goal was wide right. The distance wasn't the problem.
Right.
It was just it went wide right.
The penalty obviously didn't help, but yeah, it was tough. It was tough for Tennessee because again, you would have loved to finally get the monkey off your back, beat Georgia, the team that every year when Tennessee felt like they were back and in the conversation, looking back to 2022 when Tennessee Was Tennessee the number one team in the country heading to Georgia?
In 22?
In 2022?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Tennessee, number one team in the country heading to Georgia, and you get humbled. And last year, you get humbled in between the hedges. Like it happens, but in your own stadium, the crowd was rocking. Tennessee made the plays necessary to win that game up until the final couple of minutes, and Georgia did just enough. And it's tough when you get to overtime and you have to kick that field goal at the end because you just know all it takes is one play from Georgia from the 25 and it's game over. And they review that play, ends up being game over. 4877 says, don't forget the pass interference call in the game-tying touchdown drive. It was uncatchable. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I thought that was...
Oh, no, yeah. That was bad. The ball was out of bounds. He had no chance of catching it. And by rule, you shouldn't have thrown the penalty if it was uncatchable.
And a lot of things just didn't go Tennessee's way down the stretch there. And I said on Friday, I came on here and I said I felt good about Tennessee and Vanderbilt both winning those games. And honestly, they both should have won those games. And Tennessee now gets, is it UAB this week for Tennessee?
Yep.
So
UAB.
they get a chance at a bounce back tune-up game. That Alabama game in late October, third Saturday in October, is going to be massive. If they can get a win there, I feel pretty good about Tennessee being a playoff team. Oklahoma is going to be a great game too, because John Mateer, he's the Heisman favorite right now, right? Like, you'd have to say that John Mateer, if they counted the votes today, he would win the Heisman. And that's going to be a fun matchup as well. That one is in Neyland after last year. Tennessee fell short. Or no.
No, one. It was close.
They won that one. I was thinking of the Arkansas game.
Arkansas will be right after. So it's UAB at Mississippi State and then Arkansas.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So Tennessee, the schedule lines up that Georgia loss shouldn't hurt them at all. Like, that is just two good teams going toe to toe, and somebody has to lose. It really is the old cliche of you hate that somebody has to lose that game. But that's how I felt at the end of it was, both those teams deserve to win. Georgia ended up pulling it off and getting the win in overtime. Justin says, can I say that Kirby Smart gets on my nerves? He whines about everything. He's constantly grabbing his headset and griping at someone. I did see him, was he like sticking out his tongue at the Tennessee crowd as he was walking off the field?
I didn't see that, but I think it's funny. He gets that from Saban. He's always going to yell about something. It's just Kirby Smart. It's just his nature.
Yeah, I think that was Kirby Smart was funny because he gave all the props to Tennessee in his post-game interview and in his post-game press conference, but there was the little clip of him like sticking out his tongue at the Tennessee crowd as he walked off. Justin also asked, do you really think that was targeting on the Vandy player? Didn't look like it to me, either his body language. Do you think Vandy wins that game going away if their quarterback doesn't get hurt? I don't think it was targeting, but honestly, it might have ended up helping Vanderbilt because the next play they hurried to the line and ended up maybe having Nick Harbor open for a long play. So I don't know. I didn't think it was targeting though. And obviously you hate that Langston Patterson had to miss the rest of the game. Do I think Vandy wins that game going away if Lenora Sellers gets hurt? I don't think it's as large of a spread. Like, I think South Carolina scores more than 7 points if Lenora Sellers is on the field, but I do think Vandy wins that game regardless.
Yeah, Vandy had a 21-7 lead with Lenore Sellers still in the game. So it's not like, everything went downhill for South Carolina after he went out. Vandy was still up 2 possessions with Lenore Sellers in the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, Sellers got hit late in that first half. Vandy had the long touchdown run early in the third. I still think Vandy wins that game regardless, but obviously it did play a factor in how everything played out down the stretch. 2438 says Tennessee got away with literally tackling Georgia's tight end and holding the D-line on 2 touchdown plays. Don't even start on that call because he got to the Georgia wide receiver early, and that's why they called it. I mean, officiating's always going to go back and forth. I'm sure there were calls that were missed on Georgia. There was a hold on that Zachariah Branch screen touchdown, like pretty obviously. There was calls on Tennessee that were missed. It's going to happen. It goes back and forth. Mike in Lebanon says, we can say all the good things, but the fact remains the Vols lost to Georgia again. That's all that matters. And that's true. I think the Vols would be a consensus top 15, they're already
10.
top 15.
They'd be
top 10.
10.
There'd be a consensus top 10 team if they just win that game. which they should have, they lost. So they're still 15th. And you are right, Mike, that like if the Vols do lose 2 games the rest of the way, whether that's Alabama and Oklahoma, Alabama and Vanderbilt, so on and so forth, if they lose
At
2
Florida.
games at Florida, if they go 9-3, I don't think they're going to get just a pass for losing that game to Georgia. I think if it's close, maybe that becomes a factor of, well, look at how close it was. But like, you're right, 9-3 versus 10-2 could end up playing a role down the stretch because they did not win the game. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, you can text or call our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lots of other good games across the country on Saturday night. I did want to touch on the Notre Dame Texas A&M game because that was a thriller in South Bend. Marcel Reed, he's putting himself kind of in the Heisman adjacent conversation. Made a play at the end there to get the win for the Aggies. Notre Dame now 0-2. And then LSU in Florida in Death Valley. I don't think LSU played all that well, but DJ Lagway throws 5 picks. LSU didn't play that well, all that well offensively. Brian Kelly had some thoughts on that too. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Reaction Monday after a big weekend of football. Titans falling to the Rams 33-19 yesterday. Tennessee comes up just short against Georgia on Saturday. Vanderbilt boat races South Carolina to get to 3-0 on Saturday evening. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Couple more thoughts on the college football games this weekend. First of all, props to Miami. They got the win at home, and I think Miami, Georgia Tech in the ACC becomes a very interesting battle down there. But also Alex Golish and USF, they continue to prove that they are a worthy competitor, could end up seeing them in the playoffs. Maybe Alex Golish parlays that into a new job, Blacksburg or elsewhere. But two big games on Saturday night. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame 0-1, and that was a game they needed to win. And they go make the plays, get down the field, and score a touchdown to take the lead late. And you felt like, all right, the Fighting Irish, they figured it out. They're going to get to 1-1. The rest of their schedule, there's not a whole lot of juggernauts left on this schedule for Notre Dame. And A&M just kept finding a way. And Marcel Reed at the very end of the game. Now, we can't talk about the hold on that last play because, man, A&M's offensive line literally just tackled the blitzer, and they didn't throw the flag.
Are you talking about the very last play of the game?
The play where Reed rolls, hit the tight end for the touchdown.
Yeah.
Linebacker comes up the middle, and they just took out his legs. They tackled him. And there's always going to be the argument of, do you swallow your whistle in those moments, or should you call every play the same? I always think you should call every play the same. If it's a flag in the first quarter, it should be a flag in the fourth quarter. But they didn't call it. Marcel Reed makes the throw. Great catch by the tight end to bring it in. And the extra point was the one that made it a win for Notre Dame, or for Texas A&M. Notre Dame, they couldn't get the snap down, couldn't get the hold right on their touchdown, and end up losing 41-40. Now, Notre Dame's playoff hopes aren't completely dashed. They still have a chance, but they have to win out now. This is kind of like last year when they lost to Northern Illinois. You have to win every single game the rest of the way. I think if they're 10-2, the committee is going to give them some grace looking at, hey, they were one play away in both of those games from being undefeated against two good teams. Like A&M and Miami both might be playoff teams. So Notre Dame, they're not out of it yet, but it's an uphill battle for sure for the Irish moving forward. They have to go 10-0 the rest of the way as the Aggies escape with a 41-40 win. And how about Marcel Reed? Nashville native. He's in the Heisman conversation after that one. I wouldn't put him in the favorites group, but he's in that next tier of maybe candidates 5 through 8, where he's got an opportunity to put himself right in the thick of things if he continues to play well. A&M, after years and years of coming up short and disappointing the expectations of their fan base, it looks like maybe they have something in year 2 under Mike Elko.
Absolutely. I've been unsure about Marcel Reed. I know that the talent has clearly been there, the playmaking with the legs, the occasional playmaking with the arm. I just question if he would be able to do that consistently. And he made big plays when needed to be made against Notre Dame in a tough environment in South Bend. Threw for over 360 yards, obviously had the last touchdown of the game, which was the most clutch play. Marcel Reed was big time. But, man, this Notre Dame defense giving up 360 through the air and 128 on the ground. The strength of this Notre Dame defense is supposed to be their secondary.
Yeah.
They have the best corner in college football in Leonard Moore, and then on the other side they have Christian Gray, who's not far behind, and they couldn't stop Molasses in December.
Yeah, you look at that matchup and you thought maybe it would be a defensive battle, and instead they put up 80 points combined. A&M's going to have a tough time making to the playoffs with this schedule. It's not easy. They are at home for the next 3 games. They got a ranked Auburn team coming in. Mississippi State has looked better than a lot of people expected them to. Florida, backs against the wall for the Gators. So that's not going to be easy. And then they have 3 straight road games: Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, before finishing with South Carolina, Sanford, Texas. A&M, if they want to make the playoffs, you got to win at least 9, likely 10. There are tough games on there, but they got through the first big test, beating Notre Dame 41-40 on the road. That's a huge data point because you look at Notre Dame's schedule, and we've gone through this before, but the expectation is they are going to go undefeated the rest of the way. There's some tougher games in there, like USC is ranked 25th in the country. That's not a gimme. NC State, maybe not a gimme, but that one's at home. They got to go to Arkansas, Boise State. But the expectation is that Notre Dame's going to go undefeated. At the end of the year, if Texas A&M's on the bubble one way or the other, that game, that head-to-head result with Notre Dame could come back to be huge. So big win for Texas A&M on the road on Saturday night. And how about LSU and Florida in Death Valley? LSU wins again. Florida, DJ Lagway, so much hype around him. 5 interceptions. 5 for DJ Lagway.
Making prime Jameis Winston blush.
It's just so confusing because last year you literally could pinpoint where Florida turned it around, and it was when DJ Lagway checked in, and the decision-making hasn't been good. He just has not played good football, and it's likely going to cost Billy Napier his job. You look at the rest of the schedule for Florida. I know College Game Day did this on Saturday morning. They went through Florida's schedule and were like, how many wins do they have on this schedule? And
McAfee's response was hilarious.
McAfee was like, there's not many.
4 and 8.
Like 4. I think 4 is probably honestly pretty aggressive looking at that schedule. They had the toughest schedule in the country heading into the season. And when you start 1-2 and lose to South Florida, it's not going to get any easier. You got game day in Miami this weekend, Miami and Florida. Miami's the top 4 team. Then you face Texas and Texas A&M back-to-back. Like, they're facing 4 top 10 teams in a row here. There is a more than realistic chance that Billy Napier and his team are 1-5 when Mississippi State comes to the Swamp on October 18th. And guess what? It doesn't get much easier from there. You still play Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. This team could go 3-9. Like, I don't see... Like, they should beat Mississippi State. They should beat Kentucky. Outside of that, they're not going to be favored in any of these games.
But we also don't know how good Mississippi State is.
Right. They're 3-0. So you say should beat. They'll be favored. Florida will be favored against Mississippi State in the Swamp. But does that mean they're going to win? Like, the Gators could go 3-9. Billy Napier's almost certainly gone at this point. I don't see it. I don't see him saving his job, but woof. And then Brian Kelly. I should have asked Parker to get the audio of Brian Kelly's first answer in his press conference because, man, this dude just finds ways to make himself more unlikable, even when he's winning. Like, last year, it was the pounding the table after the loss to USC and, me and my family and all this kind of stuff. Like, Brian Kelly has never been likable, but man, that answer on Saturday night after the game where he just attacked the reporters for what I thought was a fair question.
They're doing their job. That's all they're doing.
The reporter didn't ask what's wrong with your offense. Like, that was not what he asked. The reporter asked Brian Kelly, what did you see from your offense? Because the offense wasn't great. Like, they scored 20 points. They weren't efficient. Like, the offense could have been better. And Brian Kelly goes on this long tirade about how horrible the reporters are at their jobs and how spoiled they are. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. Brian Kelly, I think LSU fans even don't really like him all that much. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't make it to at least the college football playoff semifinals, which I think they're talented enough to do it. But if they don't make a run in the playoffs this year, I wouldn't be shocked if LSU starts looking at trying to get him out of there because I don't think he fits the culture in Baton Rouge, and he's never been able to win the big game. We'll see. Right now they're in a good spot. They've got some quality wins, obviously, but wins against Clemson and Florida at the beginning of the season would have looked great, but both those teams are 1-2 now. So who knows? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines. Dylan is on the line wanting to look back at that Vols and Georgia game. Dylan, what you got for us?
Hey, yes, I forgot the other gentleman's name with you. I'm sorry.
Parker.
Parker. Yes, sir, Parker. So since you're a lifetime, Vols fan, I do have a question for you. I want to know what you think about this. So that play where we strip sacked Stockton, and it was a sudden turnover. What did you think about Josh Heupel calling 3 runs in a row instead of going for some bigger plays in that sudden change moment, which I think personally would have impacted the game a lot more if he would have did something else other than run the ball 3 straight times. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that play call series right there.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dylan. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, Parker, because I thought in that moment, yeah, you could have gone for the dagger, and a touchdown probably ends that game. But I also understand the idea of the last thing we want to do is turn the ball over again and give Georgia a chance to go win it. Like, try and establish the run, see if you can break one. And if not, you feel good up by 8. All you need is one play on defense, whether that's get a stop or stop the 2-point conversion, and you win that game. So I understand the thought process, but also, yes, like if you do take a shot and it hits, it's game over.
Yeah, and I get that because personally, the way, like, if I was ever a play caller, the way I would play super aggressive. However, the way Georgia was constructing their defense, it was the right thing to do because Georgia, what they like to do is since they have a lot of big bodies in their front 7, they like to play a super light box, and then they'll have 6, sometimes even 7 secondary players. So when you have a light box like that, then you got to trust your offensive line to be able to block, to open up the gaps, to run the football. I thought it was the right move by Heupel, and he has shown the ability to, yeah, he likes to take shots down the field, but he's conservative when he needs to be conservative. He's very smart about how he manages the clock, and his situational feel is some of the best that I've ever seen in college football right now. So I thought it was the right move.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, they lost the game, but in that moment, I understood the idea of the last thing you want to do is turn the ball over. And if you threw a pick or fumbled and Georgia gets it back only down by 5, then you're in trouble. If you go up 8, force Georgia to go the length of the field and get a 2-point conversion, the odds on that are definitely lower. But I do get the idea, hindsight, if you do go for the dagger and get it, you win that football game. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. William in the YouTube chat says, y'all ignorant. Kentucky's 2-1. You don't know any more than the average fan. Kentucky is decent enough. I wasn't trying to say Kentucky is bad, but I just listed off 6 top 15 teams that Florida has to play. Kentucky is not a top 15 team. Like those are the games that Florida will be favored to win, I would say.
I think it's funny because I've trained Kentucky's starting quarterback before, Cutter Boley. Yeah. I actually do know more than the average Kentucky fan.
I mean, Kentucky, they played closer with Ole Miss than I expected them to. I will say that. I don't think Kentucky is going to be a playoff contender like most of the teams on Florida's schedule are going to be. Matthew in Nashville says we should have gone for the kill shot. Heupel played scared in that moment. Again, I don't know if it was scared. I think it was trying to be calculated, and obviously it didn't work out. You lose the game. But in that moment, I understand the thought process. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 30 more minutes left in the show. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to get back into the Titans coming up next. Got to give special teams their flowers. Bones Fossil has turned that unit around. We will take a break. Be right back after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you for the last couple of segments here on this Monday. Titans fall to the Rams 33-19 yesterday, 0-2 on the year. Back at home on Sunday to take on the Colts, who are 2-0 and have not punted this year. News quickly from Adam Schefter. Titans and three-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons have agreed to a revised contract that includes a $632,529 raise for the 2025 season. Very specific number because it stems from the 17th game check Simmons did not receive in 2023 under his previous contract. So I guess something to do with the way the contracts were formatted under a 16-game schedule. So Jeffrey Simmons gets a little over a $500,000 raise this season. Not big news, but news for the Titans, reported by Adam Schefter of ESPN. Getting back into the Titans here, but first let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville has teased a legendary call. Dustin, what you got for us today?
Oh, it's going to be fun. So to the last texter, I'm a UK fan. Settle down, buddy. Settle down. And I'll repeat, settle down, sir. All right. Because we beat Eastern Michigan. Heck yeah, brother. We curb stomped a no name. But no, I got to give props to Tennessee as a UK fan. You play that game 10 times, either stadium, both teams are going to win 5 to 6 games.
Yep.
All right. Both teams are going to be there at the end of the year. I texted into Joe and told him, I said, after the first game, I will take Aguilar over anybody in the SEC. This dude has something you cannot teach. He has heart. What a gift. And you guys losing Nico. And now is it right? They fired their coach at UCLA?
Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, what a gift. Like, the football gods are just with y'all. I do believe Tennessee is fixing to be the next Alabama, and I think they're going to surpass Georgia soon or be right there every year with them. But, as far as the Titans go, I called in after the last game. I'm right again. Even when Callahan does his best, it looks like a dog turd. It smells like a dog turd. Go on, take that thing and put it in the dumpster. Go on, get rid of him. And I get it, Cam Ward, we don't want to be switching coaches. And I always say this. If Ward succeeds, it's because of him. If he fails, it's because of the Titans. I've changed my tune on Ward, and I really like what I see. The dude is unbothered. If there's any noise, he doesn't know it. It's not in his ear. He doesn't care. He's really got some arm talent, and it's between the ears too. He's got things you can't teach, and he's surpassed what I thought he should be now, in my opinion. But I think you drop Callahan, both Callahans, because it's nepotism. If you drop one, you got to drop the other, and face it, the O-line has been awful. But hey, one great thing, you better listen to Borgonzi, Miss Amy Adams Strunk, because you found another piece of gold. You better listen to him, and you better not be doing the firing you do off of emotions, unless it's Callahan. You can get rid of him today, and you will not hurt this team one bit. You will probably help it. And I think Ward is what he is because it's him. It's nothing to do with Callahan. I think he's going to raise Callahan before Callahan brings him down. I appreciate y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you for the call, Dustin. Lots to touch on there. Parker, what are your thoughts hearing that Tennessee's the next Alabama?
Don't get me fired up like that, Dustin from Hopkinsville. Don't give me hope only to have it squandered.
That might be.
That was a legendary call.
That was
awesome.
Dustin from Hopkinsville living up to his, you text in saying it's going to be a legendary call. You better live up to it.
He certainly did.
I think he did.
The Titans are about as good as a dog turd, according to Dustin.
Well,
from
Brian
Hopkinsville.
Callahan, apparently.
Yeah.
I understand what he's saying. Like, Cam Ward, I think, has shown everything that you want to see from him. The success in the results hasn't quite been there yet, which needs to come. But from what you want to see against good defenses from Cam Ward, you see the arm talent, which, like, Will Levis had the arm talent. That was never an issue with Will Levis, of him being able to make every throw. But it was the between the ears thing. Like, he just could not make the right decisions. Cam Ward seems to have the arm talent and the the circus play ability that Will Levis tried to have, but Ward knows when to pick and choose his spots. So far, I will almost guarantee that there's going to be some plays like the one to Gunnar Helm yesterday where he does make a mistake. And they got to coach some of that out of him, but you also don't want to lose the plays like he made to Ellick. Like, that's a ridiculous throw. That is a ridiculous throw that only a few quarterbacks in the world can make. And Cam Ward did it. Can he do that every single time? No. There's going to be a lot of times where on that play, he probably throws that into the seats, which is what 99% of quarterbacks would have done in that situation. He made a ridiculous play. Can the Titans develop him? Right now, Brian Callahan is not looking like he is long for Nashville. But I think the Titans have to feel good that they have found a guy they can build around at quarterback. Now you got to find the coach who can build him and build the team around him, because as much as coaching is going to get blamed for everything, I think the bigger issue with this Titans team is that the team's just not very good.
Yeah,
Like,
that's on clear display.
Brian
week after
Callahan
week.
could be Bill Belichick, and maybe Belichick right now isn't the best example. He could be Sean McVay. And yeah, they probably win a couple more games, but that doesn't change the fact that this roster around Cam Ward just isn't good enough. You need more pass catchers. You need your offensive line to play better. I don't know if that means new people or just better development. And your defense has to be better. Like, you did not affect Matthew Stafford yesterday. That was the big difference in the game yesterday, is that Cam Ward was constantly under pressure. Matthew Stafford wasn't. It boils. There's obviously more that goes into that game, but if you look at the big difference between those two teams, that was it. Cam Ward was harassed all day long. Matthew Stafford had all day and ended up finding his more talented receivers downfield. So I like what we've seen from Ward so far. I'd like to see more results on Sunday against the Colts, who don't have as good of a defense. Can we see the results start to follow what we can tell is good process from Cam Ward for the most part? But I'd like to see the Titans offense actually start to put up points consistently.
I think that's fair. I didn't notice the edge rushers at all yesterday because it seemed like Matthew Stafford could have baked a cake in that pocket.
Right.
He had all day to throw to Devontae Adams.
Even when they blitzed, they weren't getting home, and Matthew Stafford was finding the right guys. And that's what happens when you play a veteran, a 17-year quarterback
who's won a Super Bowl, most likely going to be in the Hall of Fame.
And he's got one of the best up-and-coming receivers in the league and a Hall of Fame wide receiver,
Kyron
Devontae Adams. So, it was a bad matchup for the Titans, and they got out-talented yesterday. But I think it really did boil down to one quarterback was under pressure, one wasn't. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. One final segment on this Reaction Monday. I mentioned I wanted to get into the special teams. We'll do that next. Got to give Bones Fossil his flowers for what has been 2 phenomenal weeks for the Titans special teams unit. We'll do that next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Chase and Big Joe coming up right after us. I'm sure they'll have plenty of thoughts on the Titans, the Vols, the Commodores, everything that went on in a big weekend of football. Vandy obviously getting a huge win, 31-7 over South Carolina. Tennessee falls just short against Georgia, and the Titans fall to 0-2 against the Rams. They'll face the Colts on Sunday. We'll have plenty more throughout the week, getting ready for week 3 against the Colts. Corey Curtis is going to join for his weekly visit on Wednesday. The plan is for TD to join on Thursday once again for all 3 hours. So looking forward to that later on in the week. And of course, we'll have plenty more reaction to the Titans, college football. And tomorrow, I think we're going to spend a good amount of time on a lot of the other stuff that went down in the NFL yesterday. Lots of storylines, Joe Burrow's injury, and we'll have a doubleheader tonight, Monday Night Football, with Buccaneers and Texans, and then Chargers and Raiders later on tonight. So lots coming tomorrow. Want to wrap up the show with this. The Titans haven't looked great through 2 weeks, but the special teams have. And just have to give some props to Bones Fossil, because this is a fan base and a city that has seen some bad special teams over the last few years. Mistakes, fumbles, just not knowing what you're supposed to do. And through 2 weeks, the special teams has been the lone true bright spot. Like, there have been moments for the offense. Yesterday, the back-to-back catches by Iamaner, including the touchdown. That was great. We've seen moments from Cam Ward that have been great. Defense, 3 turnovers in that first game against the Broncos. Been good moments. But pretty much universally, the special teams have been good. 71-yard kick return from Chim Dike against the Broncos. Nearly had a punt return touchdown yesterday if it weren't for the block, the blindside block by Cedric Gray. Blocked extra point. Joey Sly seems to be automatic from wherever you send him out on field goals. Just got to give the flowers to Bones Fossil for what has been just such a pleasant surprise. Not that we didn't know Bones Fossil was a good special teams coach. Like, we knew that. But with how bad the special teams have been, it's just so nice to see competence, and more than competence, really being a factor for good for the Titans, who have had really good field position through the first 2 weeks for the most part. I'm just really pleased with the special teams. And if you can start to see the development from some of the young players on offense and defense, the special teams could end up being the difference between winning and losing later on in the season.
Absolutely. It's nice to see competence at the punt returner and kick returner with Chim Dike, because it seems like every time he got his hands on the football, he made something happen. He provided a little bit of a spark that this team desperately needs, something that we have not seen in a long time at that position. Bones Fossil, before the season even kicked off, said that they were hesitant to put him out there when they did not re-sign James Prochet to the 53 active man roster. But hey, I haven't seen any of that.
Maybe it was just lowering expectations, because all of the returners the Titans have had, the young guys over the last few years, have come in with the expectation that they were going to fix the return unit. Kyle Phillips, even Jaquan Jackson last year, it was like, oh, maybe this is finally the guy who can be a dynamic returner for us. And all those guys flamed out. They couldn't catch the ball. So maybe putting DK back there as more of an unknown kept those expectations a little lower. But he's looked so good. I mean,
incredible.
I don't even know that the Gray penalty was a penalty, but did it affect the play? I don't really know. Like, I don't know if that guy makes the tackle.
Really?
I'd have to take another look at it, but I don't think that guy makes the tackle.
Yeah.
I think he scores no matter what, which is what's frustrating about it, because he didn't have to do it. I think DK scores on that play regardless of the penalty. I've really liked what I've seen from him. I'm glad they tried to get him involved on the offensive side of the ball. And something I want to talk about with TD on Thursday when he's on is the way they're starting to set stuff up with DK. They're using a lot of pre-snap motion with him, and they're flipping the ball out to him. I think we're going to see the Titans have some sort of big play shot off of that. Try and make a play downfield, fake the flip to DK, or flip it to DK, he throws it back to Ward, something like that. Like, it feels like they're trying to put that on tape, even if it only leads to 4 or 5 yard gains right now. I think they're trying to put that on tape for somebody to set up a big play in the next couple of weeks. We'll see. I mean, I'm not in those meetings. I don't know, but they ran that little end around flip to DK at least twice yesterday, and they keep throwing these screens to him. There's a feeling that they're going to use that as maybe not a trick play, but some sort of counter to try and get the defense moving one way and get a big play going back the other way.
That's a good thought because DK is a burner, and if you get him going vertical and you have him wide open and Cam Ward is able to connect, that's his game. He's shifty, he's fast, not the biggest guy, but if he can beat a corner and take it for 6, that's a great point by you.
Yeah, Chim DK, Alec Iamaner, maybe 2 of the lone bright spots outside of Cam Ward on this Titans team so far this year. And that's what you want. You want your young guys to show progress and to show that they can end up being future foundational pieces for this team. So far, early returns have been great for Alec Iamaner and Chim DK. Chris and Dixon says the hiring of Bones Fossil gives me hope because the Titans actually can hire a good coach. Yeah, it's been a while. Feels like since Arthur Smith, most of the coordinator hires have just been horrible, whether that's Ackerman and Anderson at special teams, Downing and Tim Kelly, Shane Bowen. It's like all of the coordinator hires have just not been great. They finally got one with Bones Fossil. I'm really impressed. And again, it's not just the big play returns. It's the overall operational efficiency from the special teams units. Like they are just doing a great job in all aspects of special teams. Kicking, punting, I'm a big fan.
Coverage units have been great.
Right. Like Bryce Oliver, I hate that he got hurt on the play, and hopefully it's not a big concern moving forward. But when he was the gunner on one of those punts late in the game and just swept the legs out from the returner, like that's a big play. They've done a great job on special teams. So we'll end the show with that. Shout out Bones Fossil for another really strong performance on special teams. His units have been the bright spot for the Titans so far. Haven't been a ton of others. We'll talk more about the Titans tomorrow. More on NFL headlines. Joe Burrow out for 3 months. We got to talk about that as well. We'll do that tomorrow on the program at 9. Coming up next, Chase and Big Joe. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.